Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and we are back with Smallville Rewind number 5, and this episode is entitled Cool. And the beginning of this episode starts off in like this outdoor sort of party or this outdoor gathering, get together. It reminds me of this one time where I did go to a social event like this in middle school. We all went to like this outdoor sort of event that was very similar to this. So watching it brought me back to being that age. I mean, these kids are in high school, but you know what I mean. And Chloe is sort of approached by this jock guy, Sean, and he hits on her. He asks for her number, and it was funny because it looked like Clark Kent might have been jealous, which is kind of interesting. I don't know so much, especially after watching the entire episode. I don't know if they're trying to say that Clark was jealous of Chloe talking to another guy. I genuinely think Clark actually, he knew that this guy was scummy. He knew that this guy probably had a reputation and just didn't want to see Chloe hurt. I believe this. But I very much think that Chloe was sort of throwing herself into the idea of talking to this guy because she was either feeling alone because of Clark sort of being interested in Lana and everything going on. Normally, or under normal circumstances, I don't know if I see Chloe falling for a guy like this. And there's a moment where Whitney and Sean are throwing a football to each other. Whitney overshots the football. I swear when people do this, they're doing this on purpose. So the football goes all the way out into the lake, or at least it's a frozen lake, so it's ice. So Sean goes across to get the football, and he falls right through. And surprisingly, nobody saw this. Not only did nobody see this, but apparently Sean was in the lake, in the water, overnight. Like, he drowns and seemingly dies, but because there's kryptonite in this lake, Sean gets infused with the kryptonite water, I guess. And so it's the following morning. That's why I'm like, wait, nobody realized that Sean was missing? Or I guess they just assumed he bailed, but didn't Whitney know that he was going out there to get the football? Either way, I know I'm asking too many questions. So the following morning, Sean gets out of the ice, and his skin is blue. He looks like one of the frost zombies from the Game of Thrones. And he goes near the fire, absorbs the heat from the fire, and there was a cool effect. I mean, it was clearly CGI, but it was a cool effect of the fire turning into icicles because of him. So apparently he's Mr. Freeze now. What an interesting origin story for Mr. Freeze. And then we cut to, because Lana and Whitney were also at this place, at this little get together, and I don't know if they were trying to establish that they were having issues there. I was more surprised that Clark was more worried about Chloe and more interested in Chloe talking to this guy. He never even looked at Lana, or maybe he did once, but he didn't go up and talk to her. I was fully expecting him to talk to her. There's a scene where Sean is at school in the nurse's office, and that's where he puts together that when he absorbs heat from a person, when the nurse touches his head, I thought he was about to kill the nurse, absorb her heat. But no, he only, I guess, took some of it, took enough to be okay. There's a scene when Clark and Pete are talking to Chloe about this guy. He comes out and he goes like, hey, don't I owe you a phone call? Let's go hang out now. And it's obvious that he's about to like take Chloe and kill her for her body warmth. But when Chloe says she's busy, he doesn't even say, oh, okay, that's cool, that's fine, I'll talk to you later. He just turns and says, hey, to another girl and goes and talks to her. Like, what a fucking dick. Like, I saw that and I was like, damn, that sucks for Chloe, especially because it happened in front of Chloe's friends. So yeah. Before we get too far, though, I want to mention there's this one scene where Clark comes into the room. The Kents are sort of calculating their bills and they're realizing that like the farm is in trouble, that they owe all of this money. Oh no, what are we going to do? And then Clark just walks in. He overhears them talking about numbers and he just walks in and just immediately knows the math. He like immediately tells them the answer to this large number. And I was like, wait, so Clark has super intelligence? I don't know. I know there was that one episode when Clark was super reading on the computer, but I don't think they ever address Clark having super intelligence, having the ability to just he sees two numbers or he hears two numbers and just like that he knows the answer, or just like that he knows, like, we need to see an episode where he's insanely good at math or he aces math, no problem, it's not even an issue. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a episode later on where Clark is having trouble in math and they just forget all of this, because I don't remember Clark having this ability at all. There's a scene where Pete even suggests that Clark should get off of his obsession with Lana and he should date Chloe or ask Chloe out. Pete says this in front of Chloe, by the way. It's the three of them walking to school when he says it. And Chloe's just like, hello, I'm not going to be you guys' guinea pig on trying to, like, learn to date, or, you know, like, and I like that Chloe stuck up for herself. I like that Chloe said, as much as she does have a crush on Clark, she didn't just give in or feed into the idea of being able to date Clark, unless it was actually something that Clark really wanted to do. Of course, that's what made it disappointing, that Chloe just ends up kind of falling for this other guy. But again, I think she made herself vulnerable because of everything else, maybe jealousy towards Clark and Lana, because there is a scene, this is a great scene, I love this scene, where Lex, well, before Lex gets to the coffee shop, he actually goes to the Kent farm, because I guess they have this deal where he shows up there for crops. He finds out that they have the money issues, which is more weird because it proves that Lex is constantly digging into the Kents. It's not just Clark specifically. It's not just about the accident and finding that out. He looked into the Kents, and not like so much he looked into their past, because he does. We find that out later. But it's more so like he's keeping up with their financials currently, present day. So that's a little interesting. And then we cut to Lex going to the coffee shop, and I really like this scene, especially for Lex as a character, because Lex is absolutely not hitting on Lana himself. Lex is absolutely not looking at Lana, who technically is underage compared to him, and right, and having nefarious thoughts. No, he says to her, you know, for whatever you have going on with Whitney, I think you're dating the wrong guy. He literally says that, right? And Whitney's just a few feet away getting coffee, didn't hear any of this. He comes over, and Lana starts talking to Whitney about, like, hey, so for our plans to go into Metropolis, we have the whole day planned, and we can do this activity, that activity. And Whitney just looks at her, and he just has this look on his face where he's like, wait, what? Like, it was very good acting, because he genuinely looked like he didn't know what she was talking about. And she goes, do you not remember we made these plans? And he goes, oh man, you know, the boys, we're gonna watch this pay-per-view, this fight, and so yeah, I already threw the money down. Sorry, babe. Yeah. It's so like, well. And so when he leaves, Lex looks back at her and goes, ugh. He doesn't say I told you so, but he definitely has a shit-eating grin on his face, like, I told you so. And right after that, Lex goes outside. He catches Clark staring at Lana through the window. I love that Clark, because we know Clark is a good guy, it doesn't look creepy that Clark is always staring at Lana through a window. Like, we've had so many characters who are obsessed with Lana pretty much do the same thing or act the same way with Lana, staring at her or following her or waiting for her. But it's creepy because they're other people. For Clark, it's genuine. It's nice. It's endearing. So Lex says to him, hey, you know, Lana's available tomorrow night. Like, she has free plans. Oh, what about Whitney? Don't worry about Whitney. Lex says, it's not like they're married. I'm like, God damn. That goes to show the kind of mindset Lex Luthor has. And to be honest, I was surprised that Clark bit. Clark actually sort of heard Lex out. Lex came up with this whole scenario of like, hey, I have 2 tickets to this concert. He basically just gave Clark these tickets because I'm sure Lex originally was going to take some other random chick, but Lex, maybe you could argue Lex has ulterior motives. Maybe you could argue that Lex is more curious about Clark and what potentially could be surrounding Clark more so than genuinely wanting to be friends with him. I guess we don't exactly know for sure, but I will say him doing this for Clark was awesome, where he says, take these tickets, go ask Lana. He kind of bets him. Go ask Lana out, and if you do this, I will let you use my limo. Holy shit! So Clark nervously goes in there and he asks Lana out to the concert. And Lana does hesitate. And I like that she does hesitate because that makes Clark say, hey, just as friends. There's no like weird motives here. And so that's when Lana says, all right, cool, fine, as friends. And I love that for like the rest of the scenes following, Clark is having to explain that like this isn't a date, it's us as friends, but he's super pumped and super excited about it. He's definitely a teenager who has a crush. And so we jump back to the Sean character. We see a scene of the girl in the shower. And at first I thought, like, wait, did they just hook up? Did Sean hook up with this girl? And, like, look, I know high school, yes, hooking up goes on. It's not so much that. It was such a jarring. Anyway, so the girl is in the shower and she thinks she hears Sean outside the shower. And she's totally like, hey, let's go. Come in the shower with me. Like, we're gonna, you know. And then we see Sean just blue-faced. And she freaks out. And he just says, hey, I need to get warm. God damn it. Grabs her. He even kisses her, which is very creepy. And he does. He gets warm. She turns blue. And when he drops her, you hear breaking. So this girl dies. Like, it's a messed up death. I kind of felt bad for her, even though we didn't know her all that well. And so we don't really know, like, about this Sean guy. Yes, he's selfish. Yes, he goes from girl to girl. But to jump to a point where he's so selfish, he's willing to kill these girls, we didn't spend a lot of time with the Sean character as far as like him as a person. And granted, this actor, I would argue, not the greatest actor in the world. So I'm not saying I wanted to spend more time with him. Definitely one of the least interesting Freak of the Week type characters. And I also feel like this type of Freak of the Week, when you have an actor that's not nearly as strong as like a Lizzie Kaplan, you're going to struggle to sort of be interested in those scenes in particular. I found myself gravitating way more to the scenes with Clark and Lana. And even Chloe, like, on her own. The one scene where Chloe was talking to Clark and she's sort of helping him pick out an outfit for the non-date with Lana. I like that Chloe, it's like she clearly just wants to sort of feel special or feel as special as I think she's used to hearing Clark talk about Lana. And it was little kind of character moments like that. You get one scene where Martha tells Jonathan that, hey, so I already told Lex that, like, we're going to meet with him about the money thing. And Jonathan's not happy, but I like that he doesn't get super angry. He is kind of, he's letting his ego and pride take a back seat. He's doing this not wanting to. He's clearly only doing this for Martha. Let's jump ahead to a scene where they go to the Lex mansion, and seeing Jonathan so uncomfortable and seeing him so just not wanting to be there and not wanting to even take a meeting, never mind actually take Lex's help. And maybe once again, you could argue with Lex. Like, does he truly want to help them? Or does he have ulterior motives? I guess there's no reason for us to think that he does, but because Jonathan feels so strong about it, because Jonathan doesn't trust Lex at all, it does sort of make you wonder when Lex smirks or when Lex says certain things. Like, maybe there is something going on, and maybe I just don't remember, and maybe we find out some of that stuff later on. The moment where Clark and Lana are in the limo and they're riding, and they clearly have a flirtatious moment. Clark is trying to sort of use his charm. He even uses his X-ray vision to act like he has magic to see through a card that she was holding, and I like that. That's totally something that you would do if you're Clark Kent as a teenager trying to impress a girl. And there's a moment where they touch hands, and so obviously it's like, oh, this is getting weird. She puts on the TV in the limo, and they see the news where this girl's dead, and it's because of this Sean kid. So I really do like any example, any time that Clark is selfless. He has this opportunity to, use all of this charm and use all of this stuff to get Lana, she clearly wasn't trying to cheat on Whitney, right? But I think there is more of a part of her that likes Clark than she's willing to admit out loud. So who knows if this date or this concert actually played itself out? Who knows what would have happened, right? Even as far as the future of the relationship with. But Clark immediately says, stop the car, stop the limo. Conveniently, they happen to be right next to the coffee shop that we've already seen like 5 or 6 times throughout the series. So he tells Lana to wait there because he's going to go and save Chloe. And I like the scene where, first of all, Sean freezing the school pool to get the Chloe was very creepy. And then Clark shows up to save her. That was all great. I like that Clark is so worried about Chloe, worried about getting her home, that he even forgets about Lana for a second until Chloe mentions it. We see Lana waiting at the coffee shop, and Pete arrives with a date. Was it a date? He says it wasn't a date. He says it was his friend, but it's like, bro, you were looking and acting like this was a date, or at least he's interested in this girl. But he sees Lana by herself. He goes up to her and says, like, hey, what's going on with Clark and whatnot. And Lana tells him about, like, we saw the thing in the news, and so he rushed off. And Pete even says, oh yeah, I did see about that. That's weird, huh? I thought Sean was a decent guy. So it's like, wait, Pete saw that news story as well. Saw the same news story that Clark saw, but did not try to save Chloe, or did not try to even find Chloe or call her, or he just continued to go out on his date. Like, it doesn't tell you how much of a better friend Clark is. I don't know what does. I did like when Lana asked Pete about Clark, as far as, is he always this mysterious? And Pete confirms that. And Pete even slips up and says, well, I'm surprised that he went off and did anything, because I didn't think anything would be more important to him than you. And I thought Pete would have caught himself, but no, he was just like, yeah, it's so crazy that, like, Clark's absolutely in love with you. And, well, no, he didn't say that, but he just kept talking, and Lana heard that, internalized it, and she didn't react to it too much more, because Whitney shows up, and Whitney's like, well, what are you doing here, Lana? And Lana's like, oh, I was just hanging out with a friend. Oh, by the way, Pete, you can use the limo. Which Pete's like, hell fucking yeah. And Lana asks Whitney to drive her home, and during that drive home, that awkward drive home, because Whitney has a look on his face, like he's like, bitch, you were out with another guy, don't fuck with me. She finally admits that, like, hey, I was just hanging out with Clark, we're just friends. Whitney's like, really? And this is another scenario where the first time I saw this, I probably thought Whitney was being a dick, but rewatching it, I'm kind of like, bullshit. Bullshit. Oh yeah, Clark Kent's your friend. Sure. We all see the way Clark Kent looks at Lana Lang, and I think Whitney notices it too. So I, once again, do not blame Whitney for, and granted, he wasn't even like yelling at Lana. He wasn't even overreacting. He was showing that he was a little annoyed, but I didn't feel like he was being that much of an asshole about it. And then they see Sean in the middle of the road. They crash the truck, and they get out. Weirdly enough, Sean like wasn't right there. I was expecting him to like attack them or what, but they get out. Lana hurts her ankle, so Whitney takes her to Lex's mansion, the same mansion that the Kents are also at. Very convenient how all of this plays out. Also convenient that when they crash, they happen to be right down the road from when the Lex mansion is. So they show up there, and now you have this whole thing of Clark. Clark runs into Sean. Sean grabs Clark and absorbs heat from him, which I thought was interesting because I was expecting Sean to be like, whoa, like this is way more intense and way more heat than I've gotten from these girls. Like, I thought he would have caught on that Clark was different, but he didn't really say anything. He just bounced. And Clark is seen frozen, which is a kind of creepy sight. But because of Clark and who he is, he immediately unthaws and comes out of it. And when you see how quick Sean is already going back to frozen or going back to blue, it's like, okay, dude, you said that you were taking warmth from humans because it lasted longer, but you just got this from Clark and you're already turning blue. What's going on here? I mean, is it because Clark is different? Because that should have lasted him days when he took warmth from Clark. Now, Martha goes outside to check the generators and she sees that it's frozen. And the moment when Sean goes up to Martha and he's sort of like slowly coming up to her, he's about to probably touch her as well, Clark shows up. Now, Clark super speeds in. Sean, once again, doesn't react to Clark super speeding. I'm like, he just used his powers and you didn't see that, Sean? He doesn't react to that because when he hears Clark say, Mom, get out of here, Sean goes, wait, that's your mom? Your mom's hot. Which, I admit, I did laugh very much at that. Now, they have a fight. Sean's trying to steal more of Clark's heat. And then when he says, after I steal your heat, I'm going to steal your parents' heat and Chloe's heat and Lana's heat, Clark is like, I'll never let you hurt them. Throws him in the air, and Sean falls into the lake, and then the lake freezes solid, and we see a shot of Sean frozen in the lake. Now, I don't know why he doesn't just break through like, he did that at the beginning of the episode. That previous lake that was frozen, he seemingly broke out of that, so I don't know why this is different. I think they just didn't know how to get rid of this guy. Is Sean permanently in this lake, frozen? Did they take him from the lake and bring him to the Meta hospital? I don't know. They didn't really establish what the outcome of Sean is. I guess he was previously dead and only came back through the kryptonite. Did he die again? I don't know. I really don't know. I like that they had the one scene where Chloe was by the memorial of the girl that Sean killed earlier. Because at least it establishes that, like, oh yeah, that girl died. You know, like, they didn't just forget about it. They didn't just brush it over. They acknowledged her for a few seconds. And Chloe saying that, you know, that could have been me. And I let myself sort of act dumb and be vulnerable to something like that. And then Clark sees Lana in the hall by her locker. He goes up to apologizes to her. And this is kind of the first time. And certainly won't be the last. We will get plenty of scenes where Clark has to apologize to Lana for letting her down or for leaving when they had plans. But it's interesting that this is the first time that this has happened. And you get a moment where Clark asks her, like, hey, why are you dating Whitney? Like, what is it about him that he doesn't say this, but you can tell he's asking because he wants to know, like, why wouldn't she date him? And she says, well, it's because Whitney is always there when I need him. Like, when it matters, he's there. And Clark really takes that to heart because she turns around and walks away, and Clark looks very sad about that. Meaning that Clark might never be able to be that available or that selfless or selfish, I guess, to be there for her as opposed to helping people. So it's a sad ending to the episode if you're Clark, I guess, right? So overall, I thought the episode was fine. I thought the episode had some cool moments between... Cool. I didn't even mean to do that. But it had some good moments between the main cast and the main characters. The main villain, the main freak of the week, a little underwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the episode. Cool. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.